got this nice and free. Just go ahead and pop that plate off. And that's what the inside of an oil pump looks like. What we are going to do is we're going to pop these gears out. So I'm just wiping this down. We're back. So I don't know where I pick up or where I left off quite yet. I haven't really edited much of this, but I have our Stage 4 Extreme pretty much all put together. The only thing left really to do is to RTV the valve cover gaskets and spark plug gaskets, and pretty much bolt up the oil pan, put in the new windage tray, oil pickup, all from IAG, and put on an oil pump. Also got to prime, like take apart the oil pump and then prime it. I will show you guys a couple things that I do personally to help us build oil pressure quickly. And then put our cam gears on, torque those down with our beautiful Company 23 tools. Shout out to Company 23. And time it and put on some covers and hook up some AVCS lines, and you know, pretty much get it to where it's fully assembled, ready to go in the car. So that's kind of what we're gonna do today. Is we're gonna focus on a lot of those little things. I do already have the oil pan just kind of sitting on there just to keep any dust or, you know, contaminants out or whatever. But I will show you that product as well, because all this stuff is coming from IAG, and IAG has done a stellar job at figuring out and making a lot of the things that could potentially fail no more. So I'm super excited to be running them. I'm super excited to do all these little things that we got to do. And I guess you guys are gonna come along with me. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first 2 videos. I know it's probably super bland and boring, but I've been trying to just make it more informative and detailed so that you know exactly what goes into essentially a build of this caliber. Because I know for me, I always wondered about the little things, you know. Pretty much anyone can do most big things, right? But I want the fine details. I want the things that are gonna make me be a better builder, essentially. So that's kind of what I decided to do. Like I said, we're gonna be switching it up after this build series, and guys, I'm freaking pumped. I'm super excited. I've been out at the shop almost every single day lately. Extremely stoked to some of the people I'm working with. I got somebody who's making a whole bunch of vinyl stickers and stuff for not only the BigSkyBoosted brand, but also the car. And guys, I'm freaking jazzed about that too. You know, I mean, everything is just coming together, and it feels like it's taken so long to get to this point, but damn, does it feel good that we're finally here. So let's just go ahead and get into today's video. But before that, why don't you just go ahead and click the subscribe button down below for me. Take 5 seconds. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and move into it. So let's go. As you can see here, we pretty much have a fully assembled bare long block. Pretty much the only things that are on here is we've just torqued the heads, all the cams, cam caps, everything like that has all been torqued, RTV'd, and the valve covers currently are just set on. I've only got, you know, 2 bolts in them. The gasket is there, but we're gonna have to pull those off. We're gonna lay a thin bead of RTV all the way around the gasket. I did have to order some new gaskets for these AVCS solenoids because I just don't want to reuse the other ones. Plus they're only like a frickin' $1 a piece. So I did that today, which we should have those by the end of the week. And the only other thing I really did was I went ahead and bolted on our Torque Solutions air pump delete plates. You know, screw the EPA. This is so dumb that you can't even buy those things anymore. So other than that, you can see all our RCM goodies, all of our ARP case bolts, all our breathers are on. I went ahead and put in some solenoids, which we also need to put the solenoids on the bottom, which I did get gaskets for those. So pretty much what we're gonna focus on is we're gonna focus on an oil pump, a water pump, some AVCS lines, banjo fittings, which I also picked up some new crush washers. We got to do AVCS lines on this side. We will seal up the valve cover, get those on and torqued and final mounted. Then we will pull off the oil pan, flip the motor over, put in the new windage tray, oil pickup, and see if we can go ahead and seal that up too. The really cool thing about IAG's new oil pan is that it's an O-ringed surface. So super sick. But one of the main things we need to do is we need to pull our 12mm oil pump apart so that we can pull the gear out and slap some assembly lube in there and basically prime it, I guess you could say. And then we gotta torque the plate back on there, seal that up, toss that on, put our oil pump seal in, and we'll bolt up our new Roger Clark Motorsports water pump and kind of just go from there. Part number 15010OAA310. Almost positive this is a JDM 12mm oil pump. It's the first time that I've run a 12mm one, but I honestly think that it's gonna be totally fine for what we're trying to do. I was kind of torn between 12mm or the stock 11mm, but I think at the end of the day, according to IAG's test results to, like, say their stage 2 ported oil pump, that is technically an 11mm oil pump, just ported, and it actually flows more oil than a 12mm does. So this is basically a bridge the gap between like an 11mm and then like IAG's stage 2 ported 11mm. So I think we'll be totally fine with what we're trying to do when it comes to a wet sump. I don't think we need to go to a ported version or anything like that. I think this is a good option just right out the box. So first things first, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and pull these screws off, these 5 screws, and we need to get to the gears that are in here, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna pack the gears with a bunch of assembly lube, which when it spins will create suction like right away. So you technically won't have to get oil into the oil pump in order for it to suck. It will already start sucking, which should mean that it should pick up oil out of the oil pan almost instantly. I've always done this, and I've always been able to build fuel pressure within like seconds. You know, I'm not sitting there cranking it for minutes or whatever. So we're gonna want a big Phillips head bit, and we'll get our 1/4-inch bit out and then ratchet and pop them screws off. And these guys shouldn't be super tight, but we will also have to torque them. You guys are popping free like nothing. That's awesome. Oh yeah. Okay. And we got this nice and free. Just go ahead and pop that plate off. And that's what the inside of an oil pump looks like. What we are going to do is we're going to pop these gears out. So I'm just wiping this down. We will clean it like really good when it comes time to actually assemble it on the motor. But for now, I'm just wiping it down a little bit to see all the surfaces and what they look like. Here, you can see how they're like, it's not a perfect circle. There's like these flat edges. So on the snout of the crankshaft, it is also shaped just like this. So that is how this will move, is basically it interlocks with the crankshaft. So when the crankshaft moves, it spins this as well, which sucks oil, you know, you get the picture. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take this and we're going to apply it all on the inside, all this, basically all the shiny area on the inside here, not this outer circle here where the rotor plate's gonna sit. We wanna basically put it all in here around, basically where these actual rotors are going to sit on. So all the way around here on the inside, down here, and then up in here. So we'll go ahead and clean this rotor, this surface that the rotor plate's gonna sit on. But we're gonna put assembly lube on our rotors first. This is where I add probably a little bit more than I should, but it's not gonna hurt anything. Can you see it? There you go. That dot. There's one on each rotor, and basically that means that they just need to both be pointing up towards the bottom of the rotor plate. So that's up. The inner gear only fits in one way, so you can't flip that one around. But this gear, on the other hand, you can. So just make sure that it's up. Basically what I'll do is I'll put them in a line, so where they both you know, make a line, because that's kind of how the gears fit. And it already feels good. Ooh, yeah. Woo! I'm jazzed. See how this one up here and this one down here, they're pretty much straight up and down? That's what I mean by a line. That's the way the gears fit together. So that's kind of just a way that I always remember to keep them up. I don't know. Got my own ways. Now you can see that, you know, we've got a nice clean surface here. So I went ahead and I cleaned the bottom of this as well. No need to do any assembly lube on this because this assembly lube will be enough. So we went ahead and torqued all these screws to 8 foot-pounds. The rotors themselves are all lubed up and we should be able to get oil pressure within 30 seconds. But one thing I did want to touch on is, I don't know if you can see here, but right here in this hole, there's like a gray looking thing. It almost looks like plastic, which I'm pretty sure it is. That is essentially our relief valve. So when pressures get too high or whatever, and it needs to bypass oil, it will bypass oil through this hole and then it'll just return it back to the block, which happens to be this piece right here. There is an Allen bolt or an Allen screw right here that we're gonna go ahead and pull that out. We're gonna pull the spring and this plunger piece out because one of the issues that does tend to happen sometimes, not super often, is this little plunger piece. You can see its little edge there. Sometimes that will get hung up when it goes to relieve oil, and then when it relieves oil, it essentially superheats the oil, right? It's because it's friction, it's just touching more oil than it needs to, essentially. And if it's always relieving oil, that could potentially lead to oil pressure problems. It could also lead to superheated oil, you know, the list goes on. So just something that we can do, pretty much anyone can do, is pop this out and take a little bit of Scotch-Brite to that plunger piece. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do right now. Went ahead and cracked this open on the vise. And this is under a spring, so there you go, see? So all we're gonna wanna do is just make sure that it goes back together the same way. But the piece that I'm talking about is that. Here's the piece that I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about when I say it gets hung up is these edges right here on the insides tend to sometimes get hung up. So we're gonna take a fresh, clean piece of Scotch-Brite. This is just some stuff I got from the dollar store. This actually works really good as well. It's just not Scotch-Brite brand. And we'll just go ahead and scuff them up. You can kind of see now that it's nice and shiny. It's all nice and cleaned up. Looks awesome. So we'll go ahead and drop it back in. And then take our spring. Go ahead and stick that back in there. And then go ahead and put this back together. Now there is a torque value to this too, and I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and torque it.